Good morning everyone, I'm Jamari Season. I will continue to our topics on last meetings. So I will start on fluid. This term refers to the fact that sexual behavior can change over time and be dependent on the situations. Fluid is the form of gender identity or gender expressions rather than a sexual orientation. Fluid relate to how a person identifies themselves internally and present themselves to the world.
Gay, a term that describe individuals who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people of the same or a similar gender. Gray sexual, terms used to acknowledge the gray area on the sexuality spectrum for people who don't explicitly and exclusively identify as a sexual or romantic. Gray romantic, a romantic orientation that describes individuals whose romantic attraction exists in the gray area between romantic and aromantic. Genesexual, a term used to communicate sexual or romantic attraction to women, females, or femininity. These terms intentionally includes attraction to those who identify as a woman, female or feminine, regardless of biology, anatomy, or the sex assigned at birth. Heterosexual, a term that describe people who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people of the opposite gender, male versus female, man versus woman, or a different gender. Both cisgender and transgender identified people can be heterosexual. This sexual orientation category and commonly described as a straight. Homosexual, an outdated term root in the fields of medicine and psychology. That refers to individuals who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people of the same or a similar gender. Lesbian, a woman or a female identified person who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to people of the same or similar gender. LGBTQIA+, the acronym that often describe individuals who don't identify as exclusively heterosexual or exclusively cisgender. The letters and the LGBTQIA+ acronym stand for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, intersex, and asexual. LGBTQIA+, the symbol, and the LGBTQIA+ refers to the fact that there are many sexual orientation and gender identifies that are parts of the broader LGBTQIA common community but aren't included as a part of the acronym. Libidoist asexual, a term used to describe an asexual person who experiences sexual feelings that are satisfied through self-stimulation or masturbation. Monosexual, a broad sexual orientation category that includes people who experience romantic or sexual attraction to people of one sex or gender. Monosexuality typically include those who are exclusively heterosexual, gay, or lesbian.
26. Non-libido is asexual, referring to any identity that a sexuality spectrum. A non-libido sexual is someone who doesn't experience any feelings or an active sex drive. 27. Omnisexual. Omnisexual is similar to pansexual and can be used to describe individuals whose sexuality isn't limited to people of the particular gender or sex or sexual orientation. 28. Pansexual, a term that describes individuals who can experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction to any person, regardless of a person's gender, sex, or sexuality. 29. Panromantic, a term that describes individuals who can experience romantic or emotional but not sexual attraction to any person regardless to the person's gender, sex, or sexuality. 30. Polysexual, a term that describes individuals with a sexual orientation that involves sexual or romantic attraction to people with varying genders. Polysexual orientations include bisexuality, pansexuality, omnisexuality, and queer, among many others. 31. Pomosexual, a term not necessarily an identity used to refer those who reject sexuality labels or don't identify with any of them. 32. Passing. Passing refers to a society's perception and assumption of someone's sexuality or gender. Specifically, this term is most commonly used to discuss this frequently and extent to which an LGBTQNA plus person is perceived as assumed to be straight or cisgender. It's important to note that some LGBTQIA plus people have the desire to pass while others do not. In fact, the act of being perceived as the straight of cisgender can be a source of discomfort and discrimination for some in the LGBTQIA plus community. 33. Queer, an umbrella term that describes individuals who aren't exclusively heterosexual. The term queer, the Q in LGBTQIA+, acknowledge that sexuality is a spectrum as opposed to a collection of independent and mutually exclusive categories. 34. Questioning, the process of being curious about exploring some aspect of sexuality or gender. Questioning can also be used as an adjective to describe someone who's currently exploring their sexuality or gender. 35. Romantic attraction, the experience of having an emotional response that results in the desire for a romantic, but not necessarily sexual, relationship or interaction with another person or oneself. Some people experience romantic attraction but don't experience sexual attraction. 36. Romantic orientation. Romantic orientation is about who you want to be affectionate or fall in love with. 37. Sapiosexual, a word used to describe those who experience attraction based on their intelligence rather than the sex or gender. 38. Sexual attraction. Sexual attraction refers to experiencing sexual desire or arousal in relation to another person or a group of people. 39. Sex averse. Sex averse describe those who are asexual and are averse to or extremely disinterested in sex or sexual behavior. Number 40. Sex favorable. On the spectrum of sexuality, sex favorable is viewed as the opposite of sex repulsed and describe those who are asexual in a certain situation can have the favorable or the positive feelings towards sex.
Orientation or sexuality. Sexual orientation or sexuality is an aspect of self that involves how you identify the way you experience sexual or romantic desire, the gender or sex of the people who someone engage in some sexual romantic activity with, and the gender or sex of the people someone is attractive to. Sex repulse. Similar to sex averse, sex repulse is on the spectrum of asexuality and describe those who are asexual and are repulsed by an extremely disinterest in sex or sex behavior. Sceliosexual. A sceliosexual orientation that describes those who are sexually attracted to people with non-gender gender identities. Spectrosexual, a term that describes people who are sexual or romantically attractive to multiple or varied sexes, gender, and gender identities, but not necessarily of all any. Straight, also known as heterosexual, Straight describe those people who experience sexual, romantic, or emotional attractive to individual of the opposite gender.